friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today we'll be covering all things over the muscle. I got my breast augmentation about 7 months ago, and I can't believe I'm saying that. It feels like in the blink of an eye. I get a lot of questions about over the muscle, why I decided to get them placed that way, what the recovery is like, what my end result will be, or if everyone can be a candidate themselves. So I'll be covering all things over the muscle from start to finish. I'll also touch on the differences between over and under the muscle. So stick around and I'll make it easy for you to understand. So first of all, what does over the muscle mean? So there's 3 placements for when you get your implants in. You can either do it over the muscle, which looks like this. You can do a dual plane, which is like in between over and under the muscle. It's cut a certain way. I almost considered that, but I'll share why later. And then there's under the muscle, which is also known as submuscular. And this is the most common placement here in the US. I know for me, especially, it was really hard for me to find information about getting implants over the muscle, and that's another reason why I'm making this video in the first place, because I felt like I was shooting in the dark. I did my own research, and that's why I came to this decision of getting them placed over the muscle, but I didn't have that many YouTube videos or just references or people that I've met. But yeah, those are the 3 different types of placement. So I got over the muscle, and for over the muscle, there's either subglandular or subfascial, and I got mine subfascial, which is under the fascia. Of course, I'm not a surgeon, so I'm not going to go over the details, but I know for subfascial, you have a little bit of extra tissue there versus subglandular, you would have maybe a little bit more rippling and some issues like that. So now, why did I choose over the muscle? So for me, I had a lot of reasons, and I did do tons of research. So I was originally set to do dual plane. Me and my surgeon had decided on doing dual plane because I said that I wanted it to look natural, but also I do a lot of pole fitness, aerial fitness, I do weight training, I lift heavy. So we thought dual plane would be a good option because I wouldn't have that animation deformity, which is like when your chest muscles flex and they move when you work out, or when you flex your chest in general. So I didn't want that to happen. So we said we'd do dual plane, but I went home, I thought about it, and I remember I couldn't sleep because I felt like I made the wrong decision. And so I did my own research, and I found that over the muscle was the best fit for me. So the first reason being, you have a faster recovery. So when you get over the muscle, the recovery is much faster compared to under the muscle. And based on my experience, I was expecting over the muscle to be like overnight recovery, but it was not. Like, yes, you heal faster, but that doesn't mean that it's painless. I still experienced pain. I experienced pain for like the first at least 8 to 9 days, which for me is much longer than I expected. I don't know how people can go back to work in 3 days. I would not have been able to do that at all. So yeah, the first thing was a quick recovery. That's what I was looking forward to. As far as results, I also really wanted to have cleavage, or I wanted them to move. I wanted to be able to push them up. I didn't want them to look separated. I noticed that a lot of people who have implants, especially under the muscle, they can look like just too separated, and I didn't want that. I wanted them to be close together. I wanted there to be some cleavage because my girls never touched before. I could never get that line in the middle no matter how hard I tried. I would have to wear a double push-up bra for that to happen, and even then it didn't look very close. So that's all I wanted, and I did my research and I found that over the muscle gave that look. So that's another reason why I chose that. Another reason is I did do my research on the placement, and I actually watched some videos of surgeons placing the implant in the pocket, and I saw how they had to cut the pec muscle for under the muscle. Like, of course, they have to lift the muscle and then put the implant in there. And watching the videos of that made me so uneasy. That was just my own personal preference. I didn't want them to cut my muscle. I didn't want my muscle to be affected, especially because I work out so much. I wouldn't have the peace of mind that I have today. So my muscles are intact. Nothing happened to them. I just had my implant placed on top of it and like under the skin. So yes. And the last reason is that I didn't want to have any physical limitations when it comes to working out, when it comes to like my mobility. I didn't want to ever feel like I was gonna hurt myself or like pop an implant in any way. I want to be able to do pull-ups whenever I want without feeling like I'm going to hurt myself. Something else that the surgeon brought up to my attention is that if you do over the muscle, you don't have animation deformity, which wasn't a big reason for me, but it's always a plus. And that's what I mentioned before. That's when you flex and your implants kind of move like that. So I don't experience that. If I flex my chest, yes, they move a little bit, but they won't flex apart like when you get them under the muscle. Of course, everyone's body is different, and these are the reasons that I had for myself and based on the research that I did, but I really advise you guys to do your own research because that is what truly gave me the peace of mind and helped me decide. Online, Google. I also looked all across social media. I looked at YouTube videos, vlogs, recovery videos. I wanted to see how people were recovering based on the placement that they had. So I did all of that. I looked into all of that, but also look at the risks. Of course, there are risks with every decision you make. So all that research was done before my surgery. Now I'll go more into the timeline of straight out of surgery and towards the first week of recovery. I do have a 40-minute vlog of my first week post-op if you guys want to see it for yourself, but I'll summarize it quickly in case you don't have the time to see that, but definitely check that out later. So the first day post-op, I was very drowsy. I didn't experience intense pain, but also the first day you still have all the medication and everything from the surgery and the anesthesia. So I was mostly just drowsy, very sleepy, and I just slept that whole day. My recovery was much slower than I expected, especially when it comes to being able to be independent and doing things on my own. The first day, I was literally like a baby. I needed someone to get me out of bed, someone to help walk me to the bathroom, to help me wipe, help me brush my teeth. I couldn't lift my own hair up. I couldn't do anything like that. I felt like a giant baby. I could not feed myself. It was a whole struggle. It was like that mostly for the first 2 days. Luckily, I had prepared myself and I bought a lot of frozen foods / easy to prepare foods that we could just stick in the air fryer. So that's how I survived getting my own food or just being fed in the first couple days. So I totally recommend you guys prepare for that. I couldn't lift my arms for a good almost 2 weeks, but also I was very scared to hurt myself, so that's why I waited so long. But for sure the first whole week I was like a T-Rex. Like I was like this. My posture got ruined because I was just so tight in my chest and my shoulders that I was sitting like this all the time, and this is just how I was. I was a whole mess. Didn't do my makeup or my hair for the longest time. It was very humbling, but I'm glad we're here now. So pain-wise, at its worst, my pain was like a level 6-ish at its worst. And the pain got worse on days 3, 4, and 5 post-op. I don't know why, but it was that way. So the first 2 days I did take the heavy pain meds that they prescribed me. And then after day 2, I started just taking Tylenol. So I think that's why the pain was so bad. Day 3 to 5. On day 8 post-op, I actually made a hair appointment and I got my hair done and I dyed it dark because I was blonde before. And I remember that was my first time leaving the house. I didn't drive. I could not drive until 2 weeks post-op, and it was weird leaving the house for the first time. As far as swelling, I was very swollen for the first couple weeks, honestly, the first month. They looked very huge. They looked strangely shaped like square cannons-ish. Just very weird, very tight to the chest. I did have lingering nerve pain for 3 months, 3 to 4-ish months, where you feel like there's little needles poking your chest and like zapping you. During the first couple weeks, most of the pain felt like it was on the bottom half of my implant near the incision. So I had my incision under the crease here. And I felt like all the weight, I felt like I had these heavy sandbags on my chest and they were gonna make my skin literally rip open and fall apart because they were so heavy. That's how it felt. Leaning forward, leaning back, leaning to the side, any kind of like shifting of weight really hurt. So all I did for the first week was literally just sit on the couch or sit in bed. And having a wedge pillow was everything. I do have all of the things that I use and I put it all in a list in my Amazon storefront and I'll put that in the description. But those are all the necessities that I needed. I was barely able to change myself, so having front closure PJs or sweats or front closure bra, I changed into the Feeling Girl bra because that was more comfortable than what they gave me post-op. Another question that I get is, how long did you wait to work out again? So I was free to work out again after 6 weeks, and I was allowed to do cardio at 2 weeks post-op, but it had to be low impact cardio, so I did. As soon as I had permission to do cardio, I did it because I was so tense from being in bed all day, every single day, that I could not wait to go outside. And so I did as soon as I could. At 2 weeks, I did steady cardio, like the stationary bike or just the treadmill, just simply moving my body, anything I could. At 8 weeks post-op, I started lifting heavy. I've always lifted heavy, so that's not anything crazy for me, but I did gradually increase my weight starting at 8 weeks post-op. And I was slowly introducing heavier weights as the weeks went by. So definitely don't pick up the heaviest weight as soon as you get released and you can start working out. Like, definitely ease into it. A frequently asked question that I get is, do you regret going over the muscle? And I personally don't. I love that I went over the muscle. I think my recovery was great. Even though it wasn't like super smooth, it was still great. And I would choose to go over the muscle every time. Now, I don't have any kids and I still haven't breastfed or anything, but I definitely want to. So I will definitely keep you guys updated in the future when I'm at that point, because that's a question that I've always had. And that was something that I was having a difficult time researching on my own, was, can you breastfeed with over the muscle? And I did find that you can, but there wasn't a lot of info on it. So that's my only thing that I'm kind of hesitant about to this day. So I'll definitely update you guys on that. Now I want to talk about the downsides, or just things you should keep in mind if you're considering going over the muscle. First things first, yes, they can look very natural, but if you have little to no tissue, or if you have a very low percent of body fat, then they can look really fake. And I'll give you guys an example, because when I'm in certain positions, you can see the shape of the implant. So if I lay down, you can see the top shelf there. I don't know if you can see it. And if I raise my arms and flex, you can just see the circles there. So I know for some people, they look forward to that and they actually like that look. But for me, that's not something that I was looking forward to, but it is what it is. I'm not trying to hide the fact that I have implants, because at the end of the day I do. And that's just something that you will see and you will notice when you go over the muscle, because you don't have that cushion of your muscle on top. And usually that will create a nice cushion of layer.
I'm gonna watch a movie.
Okay.
Wow.
When you go under the muscles sitting right here, and it has like a nice slope on top of your implant, but if you don't have that and it's just over the muscle, you can see where the implant starts. So that is something to consider, and I think that's something that's not talked about enough. A risk that's involved with over the muscle is that there's a higher chance of capsular contracture. When I did talk about this with my surgeon, he reassured me that the percentage is not that much higher. So yes, statistically, it is a higher chance, but not by that much. So I was okay with that, but I know not everyone might be okay with that. Another risk is rippling. You can get rippling over the implant on the inside, which is little waves where you can see the edges of the implant. That can happen if you're very skinny, if you have no breast tissue, or that can happen based on the implant type. If you get saline implants, those are very like water balloony, so they ripple a lot more, versus I got silicone to protect myself from seeing ripples. So silicone holds its shape a lot better. It's a little firmer. So you can see rippling technically with over the muscle. It can happen. The last thing to consider is that not everyone is a candidate for over the muscle. I have heard that based on your anatomy or based on how much tissue you already have, you may or may not be a candidate for over the muscle. I was a small B cup before, so I did have some tissue, but I have heard some girls who are like an A cup aren't able to get over the muscle because they don't have enough tissue. So overall, I love my decision. I still stand by over the muscle to this day. It really comes down to your dimensions, your body type, your goals, your lifestyle. If you're more fitness based, then over the muscle might be a better option for you. It also depends on your surgeon or where you're located. I know here in the US it's more common to get under the muscle, but I've heard that in other countries over the muscle is more common, so it really depends where you're going and where you're getting it done. I really love my results and I will continue to update you guys with time as I'm healing. I can't believe I got them 7 months ago. That's so freaking crazy to me. If there's anything that I didn't touch on and you are curious about, please don't hesitate to ask me in the comments. There is nothing too personal or nothing too much for you to ask, so literally ask away down below. I don't mind. If you found this helpful, please give it a thumbs up so I know and I can continue to make more videos like this. Subscribe to hear more of my nonsense, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!